Hello everyone, welcome to PCD Vinyl World. Today I wanted to do a video for a contest because I just hit 200 subscribers. So I didn't want to do a contest where I'm trying to reach 200, so I wanted to do the contest actually after I hit it, so I don't want people to think I'm just trying to get subscribers or whatever. So also coming up on next week, I think, is I've been on here for a year. So that's kind of cool. So I had 10 questions for the contest. It'll probably just be like a $25 Amazon card or whatever. So to enter, just let me know in the comments that you made a video, and you have to be a subscriber, obviously. So let me give you the 10 questions. So the first one will be an artist that most people like, but you don't. And I have probably a long list of artists that people like that I don't, but the one that always immediately comes to mind is David Crosby. I just don't even like him personally. I even just watched that documentary they had about him, and it's funny because in the documentary at some point he says, everybody I ever made music with won't talk to me. So I think that says it all right there. And I'm not a big fan of Crosby, Stills, and Nash. I do like Graham Nash, Stephen Stills, even Neil Young too. There's just something about David Crosby that just has always rubbed me the wrong way, and I don't know. I probably lose subscribers for that one. But second question: an artist people would be surprised that I like or you like when you answer, and that would be Lily Allen. I'm not big on pop music in general from the last 20, 25 years, or even rock music to be honest. There's very few newer bands or artists I like, but I like her a lot. She's from the UK, and although it's not a lot of organic instruments and this and that, her lyrics are really really great, and she has that English side to her, almost like the way Ray Davies does from the Kinks. So if you haven't checked her out, I think she's only got like a few albums, and she sort of just retired from the music business. Next question: live album that should have been a double. And I know as albums are getting reissued, a lot of them have been put out on double, triple vinyl. Who Live at Leeds, for example, has been expanded. But related to the Who, this is Pete Townshend's Deep End Live. It came out after the White City album. He actually didn't tour at all during the 80s, but he had a couple of benefit concerts at the Brixton Academy, and even David Gilmour played on it, but actually that track's not even on here. But it's really good performance, really good sounding live album. He does a cover of Save It for Later and some Who classics as well, but I think they had put the whole concert out on VHS at the time, but the album was just a single, and I think they might have put the whole album out on a double CD, whole concert I meant, through Pete Townshend's own website, but they never put it out on vinyl, so I think that's one that needs a double reissue. Band that should have been bigger. So I'm going to preface this by saying not some just obscure band that had one or two albums that nobody heard of, but a band that had some success or notoriety but just never crossed into that superstardom status. So the band I'm going with is Living Colour. So their debut came out in '88. Was a pretty big success with Cult of Personality, a couple other singles. Really, they were an alternative band before the term alternative was used a lot. They were played on Headbangers Ball as well as 120 Minutes on MTV. So that's kind of a rare thing. They were a hard rock band, but they also played funk and had some other alternative elements, so they sort of crossed barriers that way. They were an all-black band, which was for a rock band is a pretty rare thing. Second album was not, I don't think, as good as the first one. Sorry, that's the second album. But then they came back with this Time's Up in, I believe, 93. Right in the middle of the whole alternative thing. To me, this is the one that should have skyrocketed them to the next level. But they just never really crossed. This had a couple radio hits too, but after this, they put out a few albums, but they just never really, they just sort of faded into obscurity, which always surprised me because, in a way, I think if their debut had come out 2 or 3 years later, they would have been right in the middle of that alternative thing. I think they got sort of unfairly classified as an 80s band because of their debut that came out in '88. And in the long run, it hurt them. Why it didn't hurt other bands like Jane's Addiction or the Red Hot Chili Peppers, I don't know. But I always felt that Living Colour should have been a much bigger band than they were. I even watched the concert recently. They had one of those quarantine concerts on YouTube, and they still played great. But yeah, if you don't know Living Colour, check them out. Okay. Band that was huge at one time, but for some reason is sort of forgotten about or hasn't solidified themselves as one of those legacy acts that plays like the outdoor sheds every summer, or for example, like Styx and the Scorpions and Def Leppard. They don't really sell much of their new albums, but they still play large, smaller arenas and outdoor 10,000, 5,000 seat stadiums, that type of thing, or the outdoor sheds, we call them. But an artist who, to me, didn't capitalize on that was huge in the 80s, is Pat Benatar. And she's, to me, one of the biggest artists of the 80s, but somewhere along the 90s didn't really catch on to that thing where the classic bands started playing the outdoor sheds every summer. And, you know, to compare her to one of her contemporaries like Stevie Nicks, I mean, I know Stevie Nicks has that Fleetwood Mac name behind her, but, you know, Stevie Nicks, solo-wise, to me, didn't have nearly as many hits as Pat Benatar. She was huge throughout the whole 80s. Stevie Nicks had a few well-known hits on her own as far as her solo catalog. But for some reason, you know, she was inducted into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. Pat Benatar hasn't, and I know it has something to do with she wants her husband inducted with her also, Neil Giraldo. Even when they play live now, it's always Pat Benatar and Neil Giraldo. I think she's got to get past that if she wants to, you know, get inducted. But I think Stevie Nicks sold her solo catalog for like $100 million a couple years ago. I would think that Pat Benatar's has to be worth more just based on her hits alone. But so to me, that is a band that was huge at one time, or an artist, but sort of has been forgotten about. Show a great live DVD or Blu-ray, or even VHS if you want to. But I'm going to show Rush live in Rio. This was on the Vapor Trails tour, 2003. This was about a 6-year break after they had tests for Echo. So this concert DVD is really good. I don't know if it's come out on Blu-ray, but they play and sing really, really well on here. This is sort of right before Geddy Lee started having vocal problems, so he's still singing well here. Has a huge long set list. I think it's like a 3-hour show in a huge stadium in Rio. So check that out if you're a Rush fan. This is just a random question. An album cover with a guitar on the cover, since I play guitar. So I'm picking the Ventures Walk Don't Run. They're known for those Most Right guitars. An overrated album. So I could have picked a lot here, I guess. But one that came to mind that I recently acquired was Boz Scaggs' Silk Degrees. This is definitely his biggest album. It has his 2 biggest hits, Lowdown and Lido Shuffle, which are great songs, obviously. But I find the rest of the album to be very lightweight, almost like that Bad Disco that was in, if you remember watching like the Love Boat or shows like that where they'd have a scene with people dancing or like music in between scenes, like that really bad disco. That's what a lot of this reminds me of here. I just think his albums before this and after were much better. So to me, but this is most well-known album. So to me, this is a pretty overrated album, if you ask me. Favorite bootleg. So this could be bootleg CD or cassette or vinyl or even a VHS or DVD if you have one on. But to me, I'm gonna pick the first bootleg I ever bought, and this is Kiss on the Creatures of the Night tour. This was New Year's Eve 1982. There was a flea market I always used to go to in New Jersey that it was a dealer who always sold bootleg cassettes and vinyl, and this was the first one I bought when I was a kid. Sounds like shit, but still my favorite. Pretty significant show because they play some songs here they didn't play after this, so that was mine. And finally, an album you're surprised doesn't sound that great, and I'm gonna go with Lindsey Buckingham, Go Insane. Now, I'm not sure if it was just my pressing or whatnot, but you know, this copy of one I have is pretty looks to be in great condition. It just sounds very sterile and almost digital sounding, but like very digital sounding. It doesn't have any dynamics, and from listening to Lindsey Buckingham, I was just expecting this album to sound much better than it does. Maybe it's the pressing I have, I don't know. But if you have an experience with this one, let me know. But I just don't think it sounds that good, and I was shocked. So there you have it. There was the 10 questions. I'll post them in the video also, so you can look at them. So yeah, it's been a year for me. A couple of things that surprised me about the VC in general is how many the collections people have. I mean, I have such a minuscule collection compared to most people on the VC. They have like thousands and thousands of albums, and I don't know how. Like, I know they always say that, how do you listen to all that music? And I really kind of ask the same question all the time, because I can barely listen to like a couple things every day because between work and the kids and all that. Also, I'm surprised how little is talked about bands like The Who and the Kinks, because they're the other two of the British invasion. So I know we talk about like the Beatles and the Stones a lot, but you don't hear a lot of Kinks and Who talk on the VC. That's just an observation. Also, not a lot of Frank Zappa, which I'm surprised because jazz has become like the big thing in the last year, people say, in the VC. And Zappa did a lot of jazz fusion, so I'm just surprised there isn't a lot more Zappa talk on there. But anyway, if you want, like I said, if you want to enter a contest, please just let me know below in the comments that you made a video, and I will make note of your entry. Other than that, if you like these videos, please subscribe, and I'll talk to you guys later. Thanks.